When you get married, it's easy to think, this is it. I have found the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. Anticipating all the milestones you both are going to endure together, having a partner to share life's moments with, whether big or small, creating a deep sense of connection and support. But as we all know, life isn't always perfect, and there's times where marriage can become challenging. As conflicts arise and deception starts creeping in, the trust and stability that was once present can start to diminish. But how far is too far? Well, for Utah-born Mark Hacking, there is no limit on what he would do to ensure his lies were locked away forever, even if this meant getting rid of the one person who is closest to him. This is a case of Lori Hacking. Hi everyone, welcome back to True Crime List with me, Alyssa. If you are new, welcome, glad you could join. So I've mentioned this before in past episodes, but it literally shakes me to my core when these people who have skeletons in their closet, as one might say, do the unthinkable instead of getting a divorce. Now look, almost everyone on the planet has probably lied at some point in their life, but imagine finding out that your spouse has deceived you for years, and what you thought you knew about them turns out to be a complete lie. So with that, let's get into it. Lori Hacking, born as Lori K. Cerez, was born on December 31st, 1976 in Los Angeles, California. Both Lori's adopted parents served as missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Lori and her family would remain in California for about a decade until her parents got divorced, leading her and her mother to move to Orem, Utah in 1988. While she was attending high school, she would go on a trip with some of her classmates, and this is when she would meet a guy by the name of Mark Hacking, and the two instantly became inseparable. Lori would go on to continue her education after high school, where she would attend Weber State University on a scholarship, and then a year after that, she would transfer to the University of Utah. While attending college, she would receive many academic achievements, including the President's Award, 2 consecutive years, and graduated cum laude in December of 1999. She would end up getting married to Mark on August 7th of 1999 at the Bountiful Temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Lori and Mark were both devoted members of the LDS Church and were very adored by their community. So a little bit about Mark's history. He did end up going on mission trips, actually several, but he kept getting sent home due to dating girls while he was on these missions. Friends also claim that Mark had other troubling behavior that was at odds with his Mormon upbringing, where he would engage in partying, smoking, and possible drug use, but Mark would lie about all of these things. He lied to his family about why he was sent home early from his mission trips and denied all the partying. This is ultimately when he would start deceiving those closest to him. Mark's family highly valued education, where his father was a pediatrician and his mother was a nurse. In addition, one of his brothers was a cardiologist and the other brother was an engineer, so Mark wanted to follow in their footsteps and pursue a profession in the medical field, and when he met Lori, she completely supported his dreams. Mark would even worship his wife, and he was not afraid to show it. Above all, he was devoted to Lori. And to Lori, she would always refer to Mark as her big old teddy bear. The two were seen as the perfect match because on one end, Mark was this outgoing, goofy guy, whereas Lori was more reserved. From the outside looking in, the marriage was the epitome of a happy young couple in love. Lori had a good job working as a stockbroker's assistant for Wells Fargo, and Mark had just graduated from the University of Utah, who is now pursuing his dreams of becoming a doctor. Lori was with him through all the hardships of being in school and supported his decision to move them to North Carolina so Mark could attend the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill School of Medicine. As a result, she put her 2-week notice in at work so they can move across the country to support Mark's career path, and it was at this point when Lori fell pregnant with their first child. Unfortunately, the couple would never make it to North Carolina. The night of July 18th, 2004, 27-year-old Lori and 28-year-old Mark stopped by a Maverick country store that was not too far from their home to grab some soft drinks. But while they were there, the couple seemed distant, as if there was some tension between the two. They were only there for a few minutes, then went back and called it a night. When they returned home, Lori went to bed while Mark stayed up playing video games, then proceeded to pack for their upcoming move. Yet, Mark would return to the store around 1:18 a.m. to purchase cigarettes, but while he was checking out, Mark continued to study his hands as if there was something on them that was a bother. The next morning on July 19th, around 10 a.m., Mark called 911 to report Lori missing when she did not return home after going on a run. About 40 minutes later, Mark would call 911 again, reporting he found Lori's car near Memory Grove Park where she had went running. After searching City Creek Canyon and jogged the 3-mile trail twice, Mark could not find his wife. Numerous volunteers would step up that day to help Mark and the police search to find Lori near Memory Grove Park in Creek City. According to the media, Mark appeared to be a worried husband who was eager to find his pregnant wife. Yeah, if you can recall from earlier, Lori was 5 weeks pregnant when she went missing. The following day after Lori was reported missing, police received a disturbing 911 call where the caller reported seeing Mark running around outside of the Chase Suite Hotel wearing nothing but sandals. Reasonably so, he was admitted to a psychiatric facility. Now, a former FBI profile will later state, quote, "He kept his shoes on, his sandals. That's not generally something we see in someone truly psychotic." So it kind of begs the question of why was Mark running around the outside of a hotel completely nude? Some speculated that Mark may have had a mental breakdown due to his wife's disappearance, but I mean, he had the clarity to protect his feet and wear sandals. Now, Mark's worried facade to his wife's disappearance would eventually start to crumble as his deception creeped in. Turns out Mark had been lying to everyone around him, including his wife, about attending college and being accepted to medical school. But instead of coming clean and confessing his lies, he made a last-ditch attempt to cover his lies as his wife started to uncover the truth. 2 days after Lori disappeared, both Mark and Lori's family would find out that Mark had indeed not been accepted to medical school. And to make matters worse, Mark didn't even graduate from the University of Utah in 2004. He actually dropped out in 2002. But he would go to such great lengths where he posed for pictures with a fake cap and gown on, sent graduation announcements, but when the graduation day came, he fell sick and had to skip out on the ceremony. Like, talk about dedication. But it gets worse. When it came time for Mark to search for medical schools, he would travel across the country to fake interviews at different schools. Now you might be thinking, how did the families not catch on sooner? Well, Mark would in fact pretend to go to class, and at home he would read textbooks and write term papers. Dr. Kathy Yates, a forensic psychologist, even stated that it wasn't surprising to learn about Mark's fake persona because it's hard for those close to him to know they are being deceived when Mark was being deceitful in such great detail, like pretending to go to class, write papers, send graduation announcements, etc. And he did this for years. So 2 days before Lori went missing on July 16th, she was at work and had placed a call to Mark's medical school to get information about financial aid. I mean, she's pregnant, having to quit her job so they can make this move from Utah to North Carolina. I mean, at this point, she's probably thinking they could use any financial help they can despite how expensive medical school is. Well, while Lori was on this phone call with the school, she was informed that Mark hadn't enrolled in medical school. In fact, he didn't even apply. In disbelief, Lori found herself in tears. I mean, she had just found out her husband had created this whole facade. As Lori left work that day distraught, she would confront Mark about her findings, and Mark just blamed it on a computer problem that the school was having, basically putting the blame on the school for not including him on the upcoming student roster. At that point, Lori did call the school back, but since it was past office hours on the East Coast, Lori left a message for the school administrator that her husband had, quote, straightened everything out. Unfortunately, by the time the school administrator got Lori's message, Lori would already be reported missing. But despite finding out about this gut-wrenching lie, Lori would still attend her going-away party that night with Mark, where she would appear to be content. Now, the morning Lori went missing, Mark told police that between his 2 phone calls to 911, he was searching to find his wife. However, investigators found that he was actually buying a new mattress from a South Salt Lake store at 10:23 a.m. So about 20 minutes after the first phone call to 911 and 20 minutes before the second call. From pretty much the beginning, Mark had become the prime suspect in Lori's disappearance, which led to police keeping a close watch on him. A few hours after Mark reported his wife missing, officers went to the couple's apartment to maintain security, and as one of the officers arrived, he saw Mark walking out of their apartment. The officer then went up to him and informed Mark he needed to wait with him until detectives arrived. As they were waiting, one of Mark's brothers arrived and was curious as to what was going on, and Mark told his brother that police were nervous about him buying a new mattress. Then stated, quote, "I just need to get away," end quote. Okay, but why? If you have nothing to hide, why are you wanting to run away instead of continuing searching for your wife? Pretty quickly, police were starting to find cracks in Mark's story while they were doing their investigation. For instance, on the night Lori went missing, one of Mark's family members told police that Lori never ran alone, and even more strange, running as early as 5 a.m. was not typical for her. Mark also recounted the morning of Lori's disappearance to 2 different officers with 2 different stories. At first, he stated that when he woke up that morning, Lori's clothes that she was going to wear that day were laid out and her lunch was still in the fridge. That is when he drove to Memory Grove and found her car. He then told another officer that when he woke up, he noticed Lori wasn't home and just assumed that she had let him sleep when she returned from her run and drove herself to work. Now, during the investigation, some pretty damning evidence had been discovered. Lori's purse, wallet, and car keys were discovered in the couple's apartment, which doesn't even make sense if Lori allegedly drove to the canyon to go on a run. Okay, this is red flag number 2, y'all. Like, things just aren't adding up. And when Lori's car was found, the driver's seat was adjusted for someone much taller than her. And being that she was only 5'3", there was no way she would have been able to reach the pedals or the steering wheel. Police would also find blood in the back seat of her vehicle. About a block away from the couple's apartment, a mattress was found in a dumpster that matched the serial numbers that was on the box spring at the apartment. Police also found packages from new bedding in another dumpster at Mark and Lori's apartment complex. In the apartment, the bathtub was completely spotless, not to mention the strong scent of bleach. In addition, blood was found on a hunting knife that was located in their apartment, along with blood samples on the headboard in their bedroom. It was also apparent that the bed in the master room had brand new sheets on them that had yet to be washed, hence the bedding packages found in the trash. In the spare bedroom, there was a handwritten letter from Lori to Mark stating, quote, "I want to grow old with you, but I can't do it under these conditions. I can't imagine life with you if things don't change," end quote. So it's not clear when Lori wrote this letter, but investigators do believe it may have been linked to the call she made to the medical school when she found out Mark had been lying. During this time, Mark was on a psychiatric hold at the University of Utah Medical Center due to his cuckoo scene at the hotel, and while he was there, both of his brothers would visit him. On one of these visits, his siblings would encourage Mark to tell the truth, and this must have sparked something in him because on July 24th, 5 days after the disappearance, Mark confessed to them what happened the night of July 18th. When Mark and Lori returned home from the convenience store, Lori went to bed while Mark stayed up to play video games and pack. While he was packing, he would find a .22 caliber rifle, and at around 1 a.m. that morning, he entered their bedroom and shot Lori while she was asleep. He then proceeded to wrap her body in some garbage bags and threw it out in a dumpster along with the top of their mattress that was soaked in Lori's blood. Now, I couldn't find reports from other residents stating they heard any gunshots, but investigators would come out and say that due to the type of gun used, .22 caliber rifle, if it was pressed up against a pillow when fired, it would not have been as loud. Mark's brothers would end up going straight to Mark's attorney to relay the confession, who then informed the police. Mark was then arrested at the hospital and booked into jail on August 2nd and was charged with first-degree murder on August 9th, 2004, where he would plead not guilty. Like, come on. Now that investigators know where Lori was placed, the search for her became their top priority. They searched through nearly 3,000 tons of trash at the Salt Lake landfill multiple times, and each time they returned, they would look for certain landmarks that were not connected to the case, but we're told could possibly be with Lori's body. So how I interpreted this is that other residents at their apartment told investigators some items they threw out around the time of her disappearance, and now they can use those items to hopefully track down Lori's body. They would also use cadaver dogs to assist in the search. I mean, these homicide detectives were eager to find her body, not only because it would help their case, but it would help give Lori's family a proper closure. Even Salt Lake City Mayor Rocky Anderson praised the Salt Lake City police for the hard work and long hours they were enduring to help find Lori and crack this case open. 2.5 months later, on October 1st of 2004, Lori's body would finally be discovered at the landfill. But due to the decomposition of her body, the medical examiner was not able to verify her pregnancy, and her cause of death was inconclusive. This partly could have been due to the weight of the garbage, along with all the movements her body endured by the landfill equipment. Prosecutors and many others believe that when Lori reached out to the medical school, this triggered something in Mark to get rid of Lori before everyone else found out about his lies. Mark would plead guilty to first-degree murder on April 15th of 2005 and did not face the death penalty. In court, Mark stated, quote, "I intentionally shot Lori Hacking in the head with a .22 rifle on July 19th, 2004. She was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, but I killed her and took the life of my unborn child and put them in the garbage. And I can't explain why I did it." End quote. Mark was sentenced to a minimum of 6 years in prison, which was the legal guideline at the time in Utah. This led to a public outcry because several people did not feel that 6 years was enough time. But this would be changed when the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole held a quick hearing and stated that Mark will not be considered for parole until 2035, meaning his minimum time served would actually be 30 years instead of 6. Thank goodness. Subsequently, Utah lawmakers would change the sentencing guideline for aggravated murder to 15 years to life, and this change is now commonly referred to as Lori's Law. So he will continue serving his sentence at the Central Utah Correction Facility until his sentence is up. Now, there was some speculation that Mark may have felt intimidated about his family's success, and this led to an enormous amount of self-pressure he would put on himself to live up to these so-called expectations. Then, when his lies were starting to be exposed and his wife was threatening to leave if he didn't change, instead of being a man and confronting the humiliation, he decides to commit such a selfish crime. Lori's brother Paul did speak about her relationship with Mark, and he referenced the fact that Mark didn't need to be this doctor or high in the ranks. She would have loved him either way. But it sounds like in Mark's mind, it was better to lie than to be truthful. Lori's mother's spokesman also made a public statement on her behalf, thanking Salt Lake City police and the thousands of volunteers who spent many hours searching for her daughter. In honor of Lori, her family established the Lori K. Suarez Hacking Memorial Scholarship at the University of Utah's David E. Gill School of Business, which was the same school Lori attended. This scholarship is meant to help women who are facing personal challenges and are in disadvantaged situations. Now, I have to give it to Lori's mom because she did end up writing Mark while he was in prison, saying that she does forgive him, but she will never get over it. And this is what she needed to do for her own peace of mind. But I can't even fathom how hard that must have been for her. This case reminds me so much of the Laci Peterson case, where similarly Laci's husband, Scott Peterson, was convicted of murdering her and their unborn son, and it's just so gross to me that there's people out there like this. But as always, let's not forget that Lori's life, impact, and story matter. So that is it for today's case. Please y'all be safe out there and have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye.